Hello, I'm Dr. Brandt Gibson, and today I want to answer a simple question. Why do shoes matter, or do shoes matter for that matter? So, a lot of times as a podiatrist, what we do is we have people come in and they're coming in their sandals or their flip-flops or other similar items and saying, okay, I don't usually wear these shoes. These are just the shoes I'm wearing because I knew I was coming here. And the question really comes up is, do shoes matter? I'm going to kind of cover this kind of in 4 different steps, okay? First step, the idea, a lot of people have a tendency to walk around their house completely barefoot most of the day because they're not leaving their home. And in doing that, in most cases, your foot's going to function a little bit differently than it does when it's supported. So if we were to take a model of the foot here, this one's kind of simple, but if you see that, you kind of go like that, and as the foot flattens out, if you have the ability where the body, when you're walking, that your foot's flattening out constantly because there's no support, sometimes that can lead to additional problems. It can lead to overuse injuries such as stress fractures. It can lead to tendonitis. It can lead to just an overall discomfort. This situation is exacerbated if you change the floor surfaces. So if you go from a carpeted floor to a tile floor, or even a linoleum type floor, usually it's less forgiving. If you have lived your whole life walking barefoot on carpeted or linoleum floors, then you change to a wood or tile floor, your feet are going to usually be more sore. So number one, the support of your foot is important, and shoes can facilitate or help that. Number 2, in children typically, especially in toddlers and the very young, when they're learning how to walk, they're learning how to move, a lot of times I recommend they not wear shoes because it allows the foot to change and adjust, and the intrinsic muscles, the muscles in the foot itself, strengthen and are prepared for uneven surfaces and so forth. So that being said, there may be some benefit to being without shoes, some even in adults and so forth. Number 3, a common study utilized talks about barefoot running, saying that your foot functions more like it's designed and more like it's supposed to if you're barefoot. And the truth is, your foot will function as it functions, but a lot of our feet are not functioning appropriately or perfectly. That's why we have shoes or so forth in that kind of area. So barefoot running, we will talk about here in about a week, and we'll actually go into a little bit more depth, but being barefoot is not necessarily a problem, but it's completely different. And if you've spent your whole life in shoes, going barefoot does change that. So 4th is, what type of shoes are you wearing? If you were to say, okay, I'm going to go from a running shoe to a dress shoe to a woman's high heel to a flip-flop to dance shoes or even point shoes for ballerinas, all of these affect the foot in a different way. So the type of shoe you're using and this type of activity you're doing does matter. So when you're wearing a shoe, the shoe should be appropriate for the activity you're doing. And changing your shoes on a regular basis, wearing different types of shoes a lot of times is beneficial as well, because of the midsole of the shoe actually over a 24-hour period as you're using it starts to flatten out. And if you give it another 24 hours, it will actually recover and the shoe lasts longer. So again, four things. Do shoes matter? Number 1, typically the foot's going to function in a more neutral position if you have a shoe that supports the foot. So it will prevent overuse injuries and fractures and so forth. Number 2, depending on the surfaces you're walking on and the surface you're functioning on, it is beneficial if you have a good quality shoe, or at least you're wearing a shoe sometimes so you're not constantly overstressing the foot, especially if the surfaces you're walking on have changed. Number 3, there is some benefit to barefoot. As we said, with kids being barefoot as they're learning how to walk and so forth, allows the feet to form how they're supposed to. although none of us are designed with the ideal or perfect walking pattern. That's why sometimes an orthotic or an insert or even different types of shoes are important. And number 4, wear the appropriate shoe for the appropriate activity, which will help you function more like you're supposed to. So the idea, if you're going to take one thing away from this discussion, shoes are beneficial. They should be used as appropriate, but you don't have to worry about saying, I've got to be in a shoe all the time. Shoes will help your foot function more like it's supposed to if they are the appropriate shoe for the activity and appropriate shoe for you. Dr. Brandt